Let's dive into your first one, Todd. This would be a stock that I know one of our fellow colleagues, Brian Feroldi, has talked quite a bit about. But tell us about your first top healthcare pick.
Well, we've talked on the show a lot about, in the past, diabetes and what a major market opportunity that is for investors. And one of the companies that I want to highlight today is Insulet. And Insulet goes by the symbol PODD. And they make a small saucer-shaped insulin pump that diabetics can wear for up to 3 days. And it's the only tubeless pump that's on the market. They were trading about $106 at the peak in September and October. They're down about 24% from that, trading around 81 today.
Yeah, and certainly it sounds like Insulet shares could go lower. But one of the things in researching for this episode, I'm impressed with the fact that obviously the diabetes market is huge, but they've got a drug delivery system that could even expand beyond diabetes as well.
Well, you know, it's really interesting to watch and see how companies are starting to try and reach out and revolutionize diabetes treatment with these different devices that basically allow patients to have a much easier time in figuring out when they need to take their insulin and then automating the delivery of that insulin so that patients no longer have to go through this process of multiple finger sticks a day to see if they need to have those insulin injections. And then, of course, taking those actual injections afterwards. There are 30 million people in the US with diabetes, including 1.5 million people roughly with type 1 diabetes, which is the form of diabetes in which those patients don't produce any insulin. And those patients have a very high burden as far as having to do these finger sticks and take these multiple injections every day. So these companies like Insulet have come out and developed different devices that can be used in combination with one another to try and make that whole process simpler, easier, and more effective, because studies have shown that the typical diabetic is going to spend about 70% of their day outside of their targeted blood sugar range. And that is bad news because it can contribute to the disease progressing more quickly, causing kidney damage, nerve damage, cardiovascular damage. So Insulet's got this Omnipod, which is this insulin delivery device that can be worn. It's the only tubeless one that's on the market. And it is positioned to benefit from the fact that, we've got this huge and growing population of diabetes patients. I think the Institute for Alternative Futures estimates that we could go from 30 million Americans to 55 million Americans with diabetes by 2030. So there's a huge demographic tailwind supporting demand for this company.
And just speaking about the convenience and advantages of pumps themselves, I mean, it certainly makes sense when you can automate this insulin delivery. But this certainly doesn't mean that insulin is in a field all by itself, because it's definitely got some competition. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's got one of those competitors is very deep pocketed. It's Medtronic, symbol MDT. They have a big diabetes business, and they produce, not only do they produce insulin pumps that compete against the Omnipod, they also produce continuous glucose monitors that are used to evaluate your blood sugar in real time. They were the first actually to launch an automated insulin delivery system that marries their continuous glucose monitor and their pump together. Since then, another competitor, Tandem Diabetes, rolled out their own automated system in combination with a continuous glucose monitor made by Dexcom earlier this year. I think it was in August that they began selling that. So there is stiff competition, and Insulet does not have an automated system on the market yet. So, investors should realize that, okay, they could face some headwinds to their growth rate as people decide whether or not they want to have these automated systems rather than the convenience of the tubeless pump itself. That being said, though, don't count Insulet out, because they're working on their own automated system, should be on the market by 2020. And the way that they're designing their system is not only to use Dexcom's CGM, but to be able to use a smartphone app to control it, which would just be really, really, that's something that a lot of patients would like to see. Really, really big jump up in convenience. And you know what, Shannon, even with all this competition from Medtronic and Tandem, this is still a company that's growing double digits.
Yeah, I was just looking here. 2017 sales grew 26% to $460 million. And just in Q3, sales grew 24% year over year to $151 million. For the full year, looks like guiding for $558 to $563 million in sales. And that's up about 20% from last year. And it sounds like they're pretty close to turning a corner on profitability as well. Is that right?
Absolutely. If they were on track to deliver their first operating profit since their inception this year. And, you know, they've done a great job of controlling their expenses, boosting their gross margin. And I think that, you know, yes, in the short term, they're going to still face some competitive headwinds from Medtronic and Tandem. But the fact that they're still growing so quickly, even in the face of those stiff competitors, and then, you know, the fact that they have their own automated system coming in a year and a half, I think that this is an attractive stock to add to long-term portfolios. Could be bumpy for a little while, but I think long-term portfolios, adding this one would make sense.
Absolutely. And to that point, I think watching the partnership opportunities that'll come about. So right now, Insulet is partnered with Amgen on the delivery system for Neulasta. You could certainly see many different applications across the entire healthcare space where this Omnipod, like the customized version of the Omnipod, can be used to deliver different types of medication to different patients. I think this is actually of the ones we've looked at, this one has actually probably caught my attention the most, Todd.
I think it's a very intriguing play. And, you know, part of the reason that I think it's such an intriguing play is because of the fact that it is, you know, has a potential to be a major disruptive force in the treatment of what is a huge, multiple hundreds of billions of dollars a year in spending market. I also like, you know, Dexcom, which we talked about it being the continuous glucose monitors. They're an agnostic play because, you know, you could use a tandem pump, you can use an insulin pump with whatever. But I think the Insulet offers a particularly interesting value right now, if you will, because of that 20% drop.